Well, wow. Hello, everyone. Welcome to 2024. We did it. We made it. It's the third day, so I think we can all hang our hat on that and say we're just killing it so far, and we don't have to have any other expectations for the coming year. Hey, Caitlin, happy 2024. Well, actually, that is a hilarious joke that I'm making because today is actually I'm working really hard. I'm in spin mode. I'm trying to spin some negatives into a positive. But I feel like is going to be a great theme for the knit along that we're launching today. Third day here on the new year, I'm making all kinds of resolutions, trying to like get my schedule going, whatever. And I get home this morning because I spent the night at my boyfriend's place. I did. And I get home this morning and they're installing an entirely new roof in my apartment. So audio wise, who could say? Who could say what's happening? Um, but I feel like that is great because that takes the pressure off this being it's like aesthetically perfect, like Instagram, like filtery, like I'm gonna have the perfect coffee cup and like a sprig of wintergreen in every photo of my Leelanau whip. This is just meeting us where we are. That is the beauty of the Leelanau sweater to me. The little background as to why I've chosen to knit a Leelanau every year since, let's say, 2019. Um, so uh, let's see. Yeah, some people are reacting to the roof notes. There's some distant muffled banging. That's what she said. But yes, it comes and goes noise wise. But I know that y'all will bear with me as we go through this because I'll keep it short and sweet and keep it pithy. But some history on as to why I have started to knit Leelanau once a year. For me, when I started knitting, this was the like platonic ideal of a sweater. When I wanted to first learn how to make anything, this was the kind of sweater I had in mind about what a hand knit sweater was. So when I knew I was going to mess it up. I was so nervous. See, non-aesthetic, non-aesthetic. When Melinda Bernardi, aka French Press Knits, came out with the Leelanau sweater, I was like, this is my dream sweater. So my very first Leelanau that I made was in matching colors to the sample. It's this beautiful, just like royal blue with what was at one time a white contrast lace stitch. And this really started me on quite a journey. Now, luckily, my lighting is doing such a good job, but I actually accidentally switched contrast yarns and used a different contrast yarn for the arms and body, and then changed it because I pulled the wrong contrast color out of a project bag and finished with a different color and with the power of the ring light, you can't tell. And this, yeah, totally undetectable. And this sweater started a movement, a non-aesthetic movement, if you will, where for me, I was like, yeah, for me, this is the perfect sweater. And I want to make this my Mr. Rogers sweater. I want one in every color. And so what started as a joke has really grown into an annual knit along. So I have my blue, and this I made in Ella Ray Superwash with the contrast color of Ella Ray Superwash / shepherd's wool, all of which were worsted weight. And that had, for me personally, I have not had issues with this particular sweater growing because the contrast color, the stranded color work that we do kind of helps it hold shape. It is a little bit heavier from the like droopy drapey from the shoulders because of the weight of the superwash for me. But in terms of this keeping shape, it's hung in there quite nicely. So this is a superwash main color and contrast sweater that I have. The second Leelanau that I knit is this beauty that I get compliments on constantly. And it is, you can really see it nicely with that ring light coming in clutch. But this is Montana Mountain Wool Laramie 2-ply. and it's a worsted weight in the color Firecracker, but you can see is hand dyed, so there's no dye lot numbers. So the main color has a bit of subtle striping and pooling, but still looks absolutely great. And this was the first year, and this is a non-superwash. And then my contrast color is, I'm going to say it's Smoky Marble from shepherd's wool, which is, as you can see, is a different fiber content and definitely has a bit of, some might call it pilling, but I call it fluff, and kind of rises up above the sweater a bit more and is a tri-colored yarn. So don't get too excited, but here you can really see that it's a marl and was my first attempt at a marled yarn in the contrast color. And the shepherd's wool is also non-superwash. So this entire sweater, non-superwash. Okay. And then my third Leelanau from last year that's also been a hit. Shout out to Natalie, the Natalie inspired cream natural main color with a superwash contrast color. Another different thing about this sweater is that my base was DK and my contrast color is worsted, almost Aran. So you can see that that really pops the contrast color and makes it even more visible because they're two different weights. And it still worked out really well. So I have three beauties, all with different fiber contents and weights, and great results as far as I'm concerned. We just have to take the time to pay attention to our gauge and we can fill it in. All right. It's a pretty forgiving sweater. We just have to establish our gauge early in the process and we go from there. All right. So that is part of the theme that I'm picking up for year 3 of LeelanauKAL. Yeah, it's hard to pick a fave. I agree. So that is where we're at. So that's why the non-aesthetic LeelanauKAL is such a perfect fit for January, because anything, you can make anything work. You just have to take the time at the beginning to crunch a few numbers. And that's really it. Okay. So, yes, Melina is at, like, on the edge of her seat and she wants to know what the next color combo is. So I have the blue, I have the red, and I have the cream that looks like candy buttons. So what's next? Well, I decided for year 3 here and for Leelanau 4, I want to return to the Mr. Rogers sweater of it all. I want to start knitting the true rainbow. So we're going Roy G. Biv. We've got red, which means the next color is orange. So speaking of confluences of events, I have yarn from the beautiful city of Copenhagen it's Danish yarn from the country of Denmark. And if you are watching me live and have not checked my Instagram story today, I don't blame you because I've been very quiet during the new year, but there is some huge news out of Denmark today. The Queen is abdicating on her 52nd year of her reign on the 14th. The Queen of Denmark is going to abdicate to her son. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was just getting ready to kick off with my beautiful Danish yarn. And I just felt like just really super meant to be. Non-aesthetic and not exactly connected, but this is how my brain works. So this really is it's a rust for sure, but it's an orangier rust than I normally go. My rusts that I tend to vibe with have more brown in them, but I love orange. And one thing that I know from working in the yarn business, my former boss, Allison, has told me many times that orange is the least popular color of yarn. The most popular color of yarn, I'm going to have you guess in the chat, and then we'll see. Allison can't guess because she knows the answer to this, but I would love to see what your guesses are about what the best selling color of yarn is. So poor orange does not get a good wrap. And I was nervous because I wanted this to be souvenir yarn from my trip to Denmark and Norway. And I was worried that because orange is not a very big seller and because the typical Scandi look is quite neutral, I was worried I wasn't going to find the orange, but I did. I should have gotten one more skein, so I'm playing Yarn Chicken, but the color's worth it. So you can see the vision, right? Red and orange. So the votes are coming in about what the best selling color of yarn is. And I'm seeing some pink. People are guessing blues. Blues seems to be, we've got a black. Blue seems to be the most popular choice. And literally no one has guessed the best selling color of yarn, which is ... I see one more guess coming in. It is not yellow, Megan, but way to suck up to Allison. No, the most popular selling color of yarn is purple. If you know a person in your life who is a purple person, you will know that purple people who are really into purple as their favorite color, make it a big part of their personality. So I feel that's less about purple prominence and more about purple passion. People don't like purple. They love it. And I feel that might be skewing some of the numbers, but would love to see. We're getting a lot of shock. There's a lot of shock. But this is because here at the party, we all sort of are at a similar wavelength for sure. So very funny, but apparently, yeah, we opposites attract for Sarah, and her husband is vibing really hard with the purple, and she is a first-hand witness to this phenomenon. So anyway, purple. Luckily, my purple year is down the road, right? Because I'm on the Roy G. Biv train. I've got the red. We're doing orange this year, and then next year will be yellow. And I have a vision. So tune in next year. I'm already planning next year's because I'm that committed to the bit. So if you are not sure what my contrast color is going to be, I know a lot of you have already talked your ear off about this, but if you are curious and would like a reveal, I have a unwound skein of my contrast color that I will show you now. And my contrast color is this beautiful juniper color. So this is another fun and funky contrast color that I'm attempting this year. I am using Oh Dang from our friends at Farmer's Daughter Fibers. And I learned from the beautiful Julie Brooks, who gave me this idea initially. Again, none of these ideas are original. I mean, shout out to Natalie and now shout out to Julie Brooks, who informed me that Farmer's Daughter now makes Oh Dang DK. Julie was that committed. She was planning on making her holding Oh Dang double for her contrast. And then she logged on that website and found Oh Dang DK weight. And that is the story. No worries, Colleen. My main color I'm about to show you with this contrast color. So this color is called Juniper. I wanted sort of like a sagey, was my initial thought was like a sagey green. But when I was looking through the colors, I thought, I love a mint. A mint is great. So mint was the way to go. And so now we're into the next part of my discussion today, which is swatching. All right. So I have the Leelanau work group is filling up quickly, by the way. Thank you all so much for hopping in there with me. I have heard the request from my last couple of knit-alongs that you guys want some extra attention. So I've dedicated thank you. So I've dedicated my first 2 months of the year with my work groups, my Monday night work groups. The Monday work groups for the next 2 months will be dedicated to Leelanau stuff, all the behind the scenes of how I put together my Leelanau. So Colleen, what do you think? Colleen's late and didn't know what my main color was going to be, but this is that beautiful Oh Dang DK just held single with this beautiful Scandi wool. So this is also, everything here is DK. So it's a little bit on the thinner fabric side, but that's what I wanted because this Surrey is going to be so warm. Look at the guts, right? This is, I feel, where you can really see the DK-ness of the yarn because in the skein, this really looks very similar to me to Oh Dang the Odeng fingering. And so I was like, is this gonna be substantial enough? But I really feel like it is. It looks like um, it just looks very like floofy. And yeah, this experience is really nice. This is extremely rustic wool, which I have no problem with, but the combo of these two, it's fabuloso. It's fabulous. So you'll notice that what I've called a swatch really is looking surprisingly sleeve-like. And that is because one of my patented moves when it comes to making the Leelanau every year is that I play yarn chicken. And you would think I would learn, but above all, your girl is budget conscious, okay? And I always short myself. Yes, Christy, spots are still available in the work group. You can go to LauraMcDougall.com and sign up over there. But yeah, unlimited spots in the work group. It's going to be a lot of us. And that way, you'll have access to recordings as well. So if you can't make every single Monday, you'll have access to the information and you can get more individualized help if you have attempted a Leelanau before and haven't quite gotten it over the finish line. Okay. But one of the things that we're going to be talking about, hi, Elle, sorry to call you out. But yes, one of the things that we'll be talking about in class is how I like to use sleeve as a swatch because I play such aggressive yarn chicken. This year because I had limited suitcase room between Brooke and I, so we just kind of shoved this in among his 6 different suits that he brought and 12 hangers. I hope to supervise packing if we travel abroad again. But I was able to get 6 skeins in here, so I'm really kind of towing the line. But I believe in my sleeve as a swatch method. So that is something that we're going to be talking a lot more about in the work group. But in general, I have also swatched in yes, if I run out of yarn, it's Brooke's fault, is what I'm saying. It's not my fault as the professional knitter who is leading knit-alongs. It's entirely Brooke's fault. So we're all on board with that, right? I completely agree. But yes, I have also swatched. I've also had enough discipline to swatch without a sleeve in the past. But you'll notice that both of these bad boys are swatched in the round. I highly, highly, highly recommend swatching in the round. The only flat part that we'll be working with in this sweater is doing these last couple of rows. You can really see it actually here on my most recent one because I did quite an elegant job of weaving in my ends. But you can see here these last couple of rows where we work short rows to raise the back of the neckline. That's the only part of the sweater where we're going to be knitting flat. And that's not going to impact your fit very much, but what will impact your fit will be these sleeves and body. So that's what we're up to, okay? Generally, if you are not joining the work group, but just sort of following along at your own pace, but are kind of curious about my methodology here, I recommend that you either start swatching with a sleeve or start the body. But it's really helpful to keep in mind that when you're working on the sleeves and you're working on color work in smaller circumference, the odds are that your gauge in your sleeve is going to be a little bit tighter than it will be on your body. So it's helpful to work through the sleeve till we get to the larger circumference of your bicep and take our measurements from there. It tends to be a little bit more accurate. But so sorry. Okay, yes. My brain just completely reset and now I'm back. But the point is that I tend to cast on 48 stitches tends to be a good median amount of stitches to cast on for the cuff if you're not sure. If you are fairly confident of your gauge and want to just dive right into the size that you would normally knit, that's fine. But I think if you are looking at the last from the 4th size up to the last size, 48 stitches is the way to go. If you're looking at the first 3 sizes, 40 stitches is a good way to go. And then we can start taking measurements from there. Then we'll talk about adjusting your increases, and all of that is going to be covered in the work group. All right. So that's just generally the thought. Whereas the body is just cast on a tube knit a tube. All right. Um, and yes, the thing that is helpful with knitting your sleeve swatch is it does give you the opportunity to really practice reading your knitting, because as you work up the increases, you can see where my increases are because that's where I've placed my marker. And you have to really just start looking at the alignment of the light stitch, and try to hit the middle of the blank spots, rather than reading the chart, because what really, as you can see, you can have two completely different colors of yarn, and that is totally fine. But what will catch the eye is if you have placement of your contrast yarns that kind of interrupt this diagonal crisscross shape. So that is really tricky. And the best way to learn that is by jumping in on the sleeve and practicing it there, and checking on that alignment. We'll have tips and tricks for that in the work group, but I really like diving in with the sleeve. Now, I've heard from some of you that you are thinking that you might want to do the sleeves two at a time, which is very ambitious. And I am all for it for you. Not for me, but for you. And one of the things that came up, excuse me, is why that would be a huge pain in the ass, which is because you'll be dealing with 4 balls of yarn, right? You'll have your main colors, and then you'll have your contrast color. But one pro tip that I will share with you, if that is something that you're committed to doing, that you might want to think about, is for your contrast colors, if you're doing 2 sleeves at a time, and this is also the case for 1 sleeve at a time, yes, ball management. People come to me about ball management all the time, and I'm happy to share my extensive knowledge, okay? But one thing that is very helpful, if you are considering doing your sleeves 2 at a time, is to just break your contrast into smaller balls, and then just place those tinier butterflies, if you will, into the middle of your sleeve. So you can just have your contrast yarn hang out in your sleeve and pick it up from the inside. And then, yeah, that's, don't worry, Maya, that'll be sticker. All right, Laura McDougall, ball manager. Okay, it's just coming your way. But placing your contrast, a smaller portion of your contrast yarn inside each individual sleeve, and then just picking up your contrast from inside the sleeve, that will make your life a little bit easier. You could also, if you're using a particularly slippery contrast yarn, you could also pin the sleeve together using a tapestry, or I guess a tapestry needle, or a removable stitch marker, so it doesn't fall out the bottom, and it'll just kind of create a little holder for your contrast color. So if you're committed to doing that, I highly, highly recommend trying that out, just from a ball management standpoint. Okay. And one final piece I wanted to share with you, just from a practical standpoint, and then we'll get big picture again, is a lot of you are the Daikaizen School of Knitting graduates, and so you will know that a lot of times, fit-wise, it's easier to knit a sweater top down to be able to try on as you go. And here's the reason I do not knit this sweater top down, and I knit as written bottom up, and it is because of this contrast stitch pattern, this stranded colorwork knit pattern that is called traditionally the lice stitch. I see Grace is here with us today. Hey, Grace. And she really started a movement a few years ago to rename this the freckle stitch, which I prefer, because lice stitch is a huge bummer to me, because you can't really unsee it. But the reason that I love the freckle stitch is when you knit from the bottom up, it orients your stitches so that they make little V's. Now, to some, this might look like a certain type of bug, which that visual is really ick to me. What I prefer is to see the little hearts. They make little hearts, and I think that's precious, and love a good heart, exactly. So that is why I love this particular look, and I like to see the hearts oriented this particular way, and that is why we knit from the bottom up. Okay. And talking more about that fit is what we'll be doing in the workroom. And nailing our lengths and getting things to hit where you would like them. All right. It's a challenge, but it is doable. Okay. So that is why we're going to be knitting this from the bottom up. All right. So I want to go back to just big picture again. We're kicking off the knit along today. It'll go through the end of February, but of course, you can go at your own pace. Always, always, always. In the workroom, if you sign up, you can check out the promo here on the party or over on my website, and you can see sort of our weekly check-in schedule. The work group is an hour every night or every Monday rather, just going through headlines essentially. But you again can go at your own pace, and those recordings will stay up until the summer. So you'll have access to that to work through however you'd like. All right. And while you're thinking of yarns, maybe, and I feel like I just hashtag influenced a lot of people. And if that's the case, I just love that for me. But if you're still in shopping mode or you're thinking, I'd really love to try this out, but for someone who is a tinier person in my life, this is such a size inclusive pattern that it goes from baby to, I believe, oh goodness, I can't remember the largest bust size at the moment, but it has at least 10 different sizes within the pattern, many of which are for children. So there is children sizing for this, and it might be a fun little stash buster. So another plug for myself is that I'm starting and will continue to add throughout the coming days and weeks yarn in my resale shop on Etsy at Spring Resale. And there is a little playlist, listen to me. I'm just bringing it up right now. Resale. Let's see. There is a listing, a grouping in my Etsy shop of yarn that might be good for Leelanau, including some beautiful, super rustic red yarn, some Peer Gynt, some Scandi yarn that if you're really vibing with the red Leelanau, I highly recommend. So you can follow this Leelanau ideas right now. There's only 3 little things in there, but as the week goes on, I'll continue to add fun contrast color possibilities, fun main color possibilities, and you can check it all out over there. And I'll post reminders when those updates happen over on the D-Stash. Okay. And finally, just a quick word of, again, to just cap off this non-aesthetic knit along, just want to have a little moment where we're all going to take a deep breath together. And I'm going to remind you that for many of us, even if we don't actively celebrate the holidays, we are at the end of a holiday season, right? And therefore, our bodies might have changed a little bit. Okay. I know mine certainly has. That is that I am coming from this from a judgment-free zone, but just from a moment of before you get started on all of your work around this sweater, I highly, highly encourage you to check in with your measurements, okay? Be okay with the fact that they might have changed in one way or the other, all right? Maybe you are just not about like a hearty meal every 2 hours. Maybe you're not a candy person, all of these things. But just take a moment to check in with those numbers because it's a new year and we got to know what we're dealing with. All right. And we're going to spend the next 6 weeks having a blast, picking out colors, making this thing. And we want it to be for the body that we've got, not for the body that we're going to be working on our New Year's goals for, not our summer body, not our spring body, not our fall body, the body that we have right now. So let's take a moment when you're ready. It doesn't have to be right now, but let's all just take a moment and check in with those numbers so that you have a good baseline for when we start figuring out your swatching. All right. So yeah, I have been in hibernation mode and I feel primed. I feel like I can survive anything. And in this world, that's what we need. Okay. But I also don't want to be in the situation that I was personally in last year where my body changed a little bit and I did not want to check in with my numbers and I made 2 sweaters that I really can't wear. Okay. So that is just a little word of advice. You can take it or leave it, but just know that I'm right there with you. And we are going to be so much happier when we work on something that actually fits us. So keep that in mind. I know it's hard to have this conversation right this particular moment. It's hard to start a new, it's exciting to start a new project at this time of year, but it's hard to face the reality that we're making a garment sometimes. So just a quick heads up, something I'm going to be encouraging in the work group as well, but take the time to do some measurements so that once we get our swatch data, we're putting it into some accurate sizing information. Okay. And that's it. And you know what, guys? We really did spin this because you know what? It's noon here in Chicago, which means those lovely roof gentlemen took a lunch break. So this worked out just fine. Could have been a lot worse. It was a lot worse all morning long. And in about 20 minutes, I'm sure we'll continue again. But I hope those gentlemen love whatever they have for lunch. So glad, Lisa. Yeah, the hammering has stopped for the last 20 minutes or so. So I bless them. I think I'm gonna just offer them a Diet Coke or something. They really came in clutch. But that's where we're gonna leave it today. Okay. I am so excited to see so many of you here with me today. Thank you for joining me. I'm sure you've just been thirsty for content because Allison and I we really took some time to hang out and ring in the new year and celebrate Allison's birthday. But we are back, baby, with a lot for you. So I am so excited to see what you get up to. And, if you are choosing one of my previous colorways, please let me know that. I love twinning with people or tripleting or quadrupling or quinting. So if you are inspired by any one of these, I do hope that you'll let me know that because I love to twin. And if you're twinning with me, I might have an extra little something for you, a little gifty, just a little gifty. So definitely use the hashtag LeelanauKAL and tag me either on Instagram or at LauraAllyson.Party if you are using colorways that are similar or the same as my previous Leelanaus, and I'll have a little gifty for you. Okay? Thanks for joining me today. I will see so many of you in the workroom starting next Monday. Space is still available. I will be plugging that in the party and on Instagram. So if you want to hop on in there, I would love to see you. It'll be a free for all. It's already a really fun group. A lot of heavy hitters in there, just like rock stars. So I hope if you've got Mondays free to see you coming up starting on the 8th. And all that to say, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy Leelanau. We're back again, and I will see you on the internet. Okay? Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye-bye.